Well, hey there, Mega Maniacs. This is the MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know all the things to do. I'm going to take a look at this brand new product from Crix, the Turbo EverDrive Pro. There is a previous Turbo EverDrive that he made that does not support playing CD games. This one does, and it has some good sides and some bad sides to it as a result. One of the bad sides is that the audio output is mono as opposed to stereo, unless you modify your TurboGrafx, which I'm not going to do. And there were some incompatibilities with the first version of the firmware, but since I was part of a later batch of these that shipped out, the firmware has already been updated to rectify some of those problems. So I'm going to go ahead and put the latest firmware on this, and then we're going to try it out and see what all it can do. So let's get started. So I've got everything out of the packaging now. The Turbo EverDrive Pro is out, and I have a generic 128 gigabyte micro SD card that I'll be using in it, but I need to format it to FAT32 and put the firmware update on here. So Apple SD card reader, link volume 124 gigabytes actual free. It's in exFAT right now, which we don't want. So let's go with MS-DOS FAT, which is FAT32, and we'll call it Pro since this is going to be for the Turbo EverDrive Pro, P-R-O. And now we will go ahead and format it. Erasing and creating Pro. Click done to continue. And now we have a FAT32 micro SD card. So we can quit disk utility. And now we can move on to the next step. So just using the simplest search possible, Turbo EverDrive Pro firmware, pulls up Crix website, and also an article from Bob at RetroRGB. And if this is version 1.03 or later, then I'm pretty sure it's what we want. Okay, turns out that according to the manual, it's pretty simple. It says, just run the EFU file from the cartridge menu and wait a minute, and then it will do everything right from the main menu. So that's what I'm gonna do. You can see it actually kind of sticks out just a little bit, which I appreciate because that makes it easier to insert and remove by just pushing on it with a fingernail. Not naming any names, but there are some other products that are much harder to use than that. So now I'll put it in the old PC Engine over here, and we will see about updating the firmware. Alright, the PC Engine is powered on, and got a notice saying settings have been reset to defaults. Press any key. So as you can see, this region detects automatically. The previous version of the Turbo EverDrive had a little switch on the side that you would flip for PC Engine or TurboGrafx. This doesn't need that. There's the firmware, so I guess we just select it and install it. Do not turn off the system. Okay, I won't. I don't know how long this process takes, so you and I are gonna, oh, maybe it's done already. That seems pretty fast. Let's see. Device info. Well, yeah, it's done. Of course, there's really not much we can do with it just yet because there's nothing on it. It has apparently been tested because it says games played 3. I guess we could run a diagnostic. Testing ROM, testing VRM. testing SDC. Well, looks like everything is good. About. Made in Ukraine, yes. And system folder. Not really much to see here. So what I need to do is put something on the micro SD to actually use with it, and that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, we're back, and now I've gotten the firmware update deleted off of the memory card and some actual files on here for us to try. The latest version of the firmware is supposed to have fixed whatever issues there were with Sapphire, so I feel like that's a good place to start. Oh, system card BIOS not found. Whoops. Okay, well, that's a lesson learned for me. I need to put the BIOS on there. I'll be right back. And here we go again. This time I have a BIOS in the BIOS folder, so hopefully it is a compatible BIOS. There's one way to find out. EverDrive cannot run, or if the console has a built-in CD-ROM. Oh, it must be complaining about my Super SD System 3. So, gonna have to unplug that. Be right back. Well, in the end, it turned out to be easier to hook up my TurboGrafx than to unhook the Super SD System 3, since I was using the video out on that for the display on the TV, whereas with this, I already have the module on the back for video out, so there is no CD system hooked up to this, and we should be good to go. Start game. Push run button. Just a moment. Unfortunately, I think we may run into the issue of not having the right system BIOS for this game. I think that's the screen we're stuck on now. Might need 3.0 instead of 2.0. Let me just run a HuCard game before I do anything else. Exit. HuCard. Let's just make sure something is working here. Hard to play this one-handed. Alright, I'm satisfied that HuCards work. Now I just need the right BIOS for Sapphire. Alright, I now have Japan BIOS 3.0 on here, so if it doesn't work now, then it wasn't meant to be. Loading. How long does loading take? Not long.
西暦2092年、繁栄を極めた人類はやがて訪れるであろう落日に向かい、
And there you have it. You can now run CD games without the CD attachment on a TurboGrafx or a PC Engine. But if you already have a Super SD or a Super HD system hooked up, you're going to want to unhook that first before you start playing. Otherwise, you'll get the same incompatibility that I did.